constrained for time, so we really need to be as efficient as possible. So please allow me to welcome His Excellency to the stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amit. I hope you'll be the keeper of time also, and if we are going overboard, just stop us. Friends, thank you very much for this great opportunity. We have got here to present ourselves, present the India story in front of the wind energy participants, Wind Energy Europe, and I'm thankful to the Wind Energy Europe and Wind Energy Global World Energy Council for this, organizing this India session. There is a strong Indian industry participation here, and I'm happy to see many faces from India who are participating today. And there could have been more, but for some visa issues which always crop up. So I would also like to thank CII, the Confederation of Indian Industry, for working behind the scene. But from Embassy of India, we are very happy that today we are getting the help of all stakeholders, the Danish Energy Agency, the Trade Council, and many others, who have all come together and put together the efforts to bring the India story to you. So friends, let me say that today, as a country, we are very much focused on wind energy, on the renewables, and especially when we are talking of India-Denmark friendship and India-Denmark relations, we always talk of our green strategic partnership. So in 2020, India-Denmark relations have always been very strong. Last year we were celebrating the 75 years of establishment of our diplomatic relations. But in 2020, the Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, and the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, they thought of putting together the green strategic partnership between India and Denmark. And what is this green strategic partnership? This is that Denmark has very good companies and technologies which can help India in its green transition. India, which is a very large economy and the world's largest population, is growing very fast. You know that this is a population of 1.5 billion people. We have the world's 5th largest economy. We would soon be a $5 trillion economy, and we would soon be world's 3rd largest economy. And India, which is the largest among the large economies, this is the fastest growing economy, also faces significant problems of climate change, pollution, the problems of water rejuvenation, smart cities, the stressed out, water, land, geographic areas. In this, we all need a lot of assistance and help from Denmark and from the Nordic countries especially to help us in our green transition. And so, India has been very seriously working in the field of climate change, doing everything which is possible by technology and financing to take forward our story of development, which should be green development. And as you know that among the G20 countries, India is the only country which achieved its targets given under the nationally determined contributions under the Paris Climate Agreement ahead of time. So India is very seriously working for its economy to be the leader in green transition. And then among the major countries when we went to COP26 in Glasgow, we set 5 different targets for us. Essentially, that by 2030, we would add 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel energy to the Indian energy mix, out of which half of all India's nationally installed capacity would come from renewable energy. So you can understand that how seriously we are looking at renewable energy. And in terms of, when we talk of renewables, wind is a very big story in India. And India is considered to be the 4th largest ecosystem in wind energy, with 49 gigawatts of installed capacity in onshore and offshore. It's an expanding story, probably leading us to a 70 gigawatt portfolio. And this would not be possible without participation of all of you who are present here as stakeholders, your technology and financing, which is very important. And we have to find an optimal mix that how we can do this. Now, India has been delivering year after year. We are not stopping. About 20 gigawatt of renewables were installed in India in last 1 year, and about $20 billion of foreign direct investment came into this sector in last 5 years. So we are open for the foreign direct investment is direct. It is 100%. The foreign investors can come in, and we are trying to bring out tenders and tenders after tenders every year. It's already been coming every year. And those who know India, we have remarkable prospects in the states of Tamil Nadu, in southern India, and we hopefully would have a representative from Tamil Nadu Renewable Energy Corporation here soon. In the state of Gujarat, in Karnataka, in Rajasthan and other places, everywhere we see we have a lot of untapped potential, which is just waiting for the right kind of technology and right kind of financing to come. Friends, I would like to say that in this field, we have made so much progress that not only we are looking at our bilateral cooperation between India and Denmark, and since I am the Indian ambassador to Denmark, my first and foremost attention goes to Denmark. But of course, since we are talking of here WindEurope, India already has an established partnership with all the Nordic countries. We work in the India-Nordic framework also, and if you remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi last came to Copenhagen in the year 2022. It was the second India-Nordic summit at that time. And now we are already preparing for the third India-Nordic summit, which would be in Oslo before the summer. And the 5 Nordic Prime Ministers and Indian Prime Minister, when they meet, they primarily talk of, apart from geopolitical issues, also how to help, how to tackle the problems of climate change. And environment, which is a big thing, and in which Denmark and the Nordic countries are all, leaders in this thing. We need serious assistance and help from, all of you in Denmark, in Nordic countries and in Europe. And in this, financing is also very important. And I would urge that, especially in Denmark, that there are pension funds, there are IFO, IFU, and many other agencies. Similarly, elsewhere also in Europe, that please think of India when you are thinking of your next investment, because India is a large economy. It is a great, its macroeconomic fundamentals are strong. It is giving good returns. And so in the field of wind energy also, we have great prospects, and I invite you all to seriously look at India. I want to say that in terms of our presence in Copenhagen as embassy, we are here to present any kind of assistance you need from us, to direct you to right people in India, and there are so many industry players who are present here. And also I would like to say that in terms of policy making in India, in terms of regulations, since we are today at this stage hearing each other, if you have issues in India, do point them to us so that we can take right steps to address your concerns also. But I think that in the end, it would be a great story of India-Europe cooperation, India-Denmark cooperation, and India-Nordic cooperation in the wind energy. And it is good for India and it is good for the planet. Thank you very much. Welcome.
At the European Commission. And I'm very glad to be here because this discussion comes very shortly after the historic visit of the College of Commissioners to India and the discussion between the President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and Prime Minister Modi, including on what? On wind, on cooperation in wind. And this is absolutely a crucial topic for our partnership. As you know, as you can see, as you can witness here, wind, and in particular offshore wind, is extremely vibrant in the EU. We have quite some experience. We have already over 20 gigawatts of offshore wind across the EU. We have plans for 90 gigawatts by 2030. And obviously, the development of wind, and in particular offshore wind, is not just a European story. We see the projects coming off the ground across the world, and we're very happy with this. But let me say a few words on where I see that our cooperation between the European Union and India in the area of wind can be strengthened. First, regulatory frameworks. I mean, we all, I think, will agree on the importance of a good, conducive regulatory framework which is helping to grow the wind market, which should help to make it vibrant. That's the first thing. Second thing, the scale up of manufacturing capacities. You need a lot of various companies to cooperate together in order to support the development of offshore wind, of wind in general. This includes ports, this includes vessels, this includes the build-up of the supply chain and the development of skilled workforce. This is all vital for these projects. And as you know, the European Union, various countries, they have very strong and competitive industry that can partner with India. Third aspect, innovative financing and investments. These investments will require massive mobilization of funding, massive resources, mainly private but also public, and delivering on them often requires innovative financing. You know, it requires de-risking, for example, of the investments. And just one example of what we have done in the European Union, the European Investment Bank has developed a 5 billion counter guarantee to underpin the development of offshore projects. We have a number of other instruments that, again, I think we developed over the years, and we can share experience on this. And finally, sustained research and innovation are necessary, absolutely necessary to support emerging offshore technologies. Think about floating wind, think about ocean energy. This is all necessary to adapt the investments to various conditions and to bring down their cost, which is still significant. And collaboration and knowledge sharing are critical to progress also on this point. So summing up, the European Union stands ready to engage with India even more on this front, basically for our stronger partnership. Thank you very much.
It up very well. We need the finances, we need the supply chain, and we need the skills, and we need the technology and R&D, so that we can kickstart the development of offshore wind in India. Yes, this is where exactly we are looking for hand-holding from the experts sitting over here to come and kickstart the offshore wind development. And the bids are already out, one for Tamil Nadu, one for Gujarat. Gujarat comes with government of support, that is VGF, and Tamil Nadu, it is on seabed lease basis. Both tenders are out, and we have been in discussions with various developers, various consultants on how to fine-tune going forward, how to fine-tune some of the RFS document conditions, so that the interest will get created for the real serious developers for Indian story. Because the the trajectory is very huge. Just shared that 20 gigawatts is what has been developed in offshore in India, in Europe. But India, the potential is 75 gigawatt. We're just waiting for the starting point, and this is going to continue for the next decade or couple of decades, so that the entire potential is realized.
Thank you very much, Sivkumar. Now, Lucas mentioned, he focused his remarks on offshore wind, but broadly, if you see the onshore wind sector as well. I mean, last year there was about 20 gigawatts of solar installed, but only about 4 gigawatts of onshore wind. So the question is there any acceleration that we can also potentially envisage in wind itself? And the question is directed to everyone. So from a developer's perspective,
Yeah.
if the question would be, I mean, what kind of policy and institutional arrangements can help further accelerate the deployment of wind or even renewables as a whole in India?
So maybe I can start with that. Coming from Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners, we do, as His Excellency also mentioned, see the great potential that India has in the renewable energy sector. As we call it, these are high growth, middle income markets that are well poised to deliver risk adjusted returns over the next 10 years, and we are actively investing in that geography. From a fund and a developer's perspective, when we talk about renewable energy or wind as a whole, Some of the challenges, as Lucas also mentioned, is that the regulatory framework needs to be sort of strengthened in a way that there needs to be like one common EPA structures, documents. They cannot, sometimes they vary a lot from state to state. Sometimes getting approvals from different states, especially when now we're talking about doing interstate transmissions, and we are also talking about decarbonizing our industries. So simplifying some of the way we can get approvals on open access, on getting connectivities, etc. I think that early stage, solving that early stage hurdles are very, very important for funds like us to deploy capital and to build. That early stage de-risking is critically very essential from my point of view.
Would anyone like to add to that?
So just I would like to add, in addition of that, like you absolutely mentioned about the regulatory challenges, there were certain regulatory challenges which were developer facing. In addition to the government of India is also pushing how to increase this RE integration, within integration in the system. So now they introduce specifically that the RPO, wind RPO in our system. So wind RPO, one thing. Second thing, PPA developer was facing the, even REIA was facing the challenges in the terms of the signing of PPAs. So government introduced URET, Uniform Renewable Energy Tariff. So all the PPAs come together, the common or weighted average PPA will come to the DISCOM side. There's a second thing. Even the major constraint which developer was facing in the transmission point of view. Because from last 4 years back, this CTU project came in picture. Before that, feed-in tariff was in a picture, developer was developing project on a regular basis. Now the CTU project came in picture, very limitation in terms of tech transmission.
So let me just stop you before we go into more acronyms. So RPO is the Renewables Purchase Obligation. CTU is the Central Transmission Authority, so utility, sorry. So these are projects that are connected to the Central Transmission Grid rather than the STUs, the State Transmission Utilities. Please go on.
Okay, so that's the best part. Now government is strengthening the central transmission units, and the project will come in because India has a very limited states where the wind potential is there. So ultimately we have to inject power to windy states to non-windy states. So that's the things which now is developing, and I hope so in the coming years that a huge potential will come in our interiors.
And what about land acquisition itself? Do you think it's improving or?
Right. Land acquisition was the biggest challenge. Even the particular wind ROW is one of the. Yes. ROW is one of the critical tasks. So just last 2 weeks back, Government of India introduced a specific policy for the ROW. They defined how much the amount is fixed for the ROW issues. Otherwise, the local level peoples, local level administration, they were facing a huge challenge because there was no standards. So now government is also pushing how to resolve the issues. Ultimate, the wind is not like it's a solar to develop in a limited area. It's a micro site. It's a 100 or 200, 300 megawatt of project is scattered in a 10 or 15 kilometers area. So all these issues, yes, it was the challenges. Now, just because of the government intervening, developers are facing, are thinking that there are hope to develop project on a easiest way.
Great, thanks very much. Now, next question is about going for the easy solution versus the right solution. So when you have, there's this prevailing narrative that solar and batteries are quite easy to install. So if you combine solar and batteries, you automatically get dispatchable power, and it's easy and it's cheap to install. But then, is that the best possible solution? So then the question is how would that compare to wind? So does wind still have a place when it's competing against solar and batteries? Or should wind be combined with solar and batteries to give a better proposition? What do you think?
Sure. So I can try answering that. If you look at what happened in India last year, so we had a total capacity of close to 54 gigawatt that got tendered out, and majority of that capacity, a little above 50%, was through innovative mechanisms like round the clock, like firm and dispatchable renewable energy, peak power supply. And within all of this, it's tough analyzing all of that only with solar plus storage. So it would have to be integrated with wind, and that's another reason why wind offtake has improved. Take-up for wind has been going up. because if you look at, for example, solar with, let's say, at a good solar installation site offering a capacity utilization factor of close to 25%, wind offering first year 30 to 35%. And the best part is when we analyze various sites for solar and wind, so the generation profile is really complementary. So which is why the proposition for having a solar wind hybrid and then having a battery energy storage project co-located with either the solar part or the wind energy part, it offers the lowest levelized cost of energy. You can do it with solar, but most of the configurations on storage that we are seeing are typically 2-hour charge-discharge cycles. So unless long duration storage becomes cheaper, at this point of time for firm and dispatchable sort of configuration, solar wind hybrid plus storage is the most cost-effective option.
So wind has a place over there. And in terms of complementarity, are you speaking of intraday complementarity or seasonal complementarity?
So mix of both. What happens is if you look at for example, round-the-clock sort of requirement, during night hours or evening, wind is the only thing that's going to be offering you electricity, and that leads to lesser oversizing on part of solar. So you can have a very optimal oversizing on solar because solar gives you the lowest cost of generation. So the intent is to first maximize as much as solar generation as you can have, then have wind energy that fills in all of those pockets on the daily basis thing as well as on a monthly variation, and then have storage that's very complementary, trying to give you a very firm profile. You would still end up having an excess, so you would still have some exposure to open markets or an exchange. But as I mentioned, in terms of lowest landed cost, that's the most optimal solution as of now.
Yeah, because solar operates only in contiguous hours, so it only gives you the opportunity for one charging cycle. But if you combine that with wind, and because wind waxes and wanes through the day, it gives you the opportunity for multiple charging cycles, and therefore a single battery system can also be far more effective in its utilization, as opposed to when a battery is combined only with solar PV. This is great. So I think from the perspective of unit cost to consumers, this would be, and then I guess it would be a case of optimizing the mix between solar and wind, depending on the specific supply profiles in different parts of the country, and depending on the demand profiles as well.
Exactly.
Right, great. And a dispatchable source of power, then automatically it becomes a contributor to the resilience of the grid itself. So we have to change that whole thinking about how solar and wind are combined with batteries so that we can maximize the use of existing transmission capacity as well. Great, thanks. I'll come back to asking a question from the developer's perspective. So what would you see are the key considerations for developers when investing in offshore wind projects? I know that the part of the question has been answered by Lucas, or has been addressed by Lucas. We have discussed it a little bit, but there are several nuances to offshore wind, and especially in the Indian context, starting from the seabed itself. The seabed mapping, I don't know if the seabed mapping in India has been done at the level at which we have seen, say, here in the North Sea. So, would anyone like to take this question, saying what are the specific nuances in India that India would need to address in order to make life simple as possible for developers for offshore?
In fact, NIWE, the Wind Energy Institute, National Institute of Wind Energy, India, they have done this mapping for the Gujarat site, and the data is available in the public domain. And of course, if you ask me a question that would it be complete, no. Probably we need to do more studies for going for the micro siting. That is there, and some LiDAR data is also there, for wind speed data also is there. And some of the incentives what Government of India is contemplating is already there is for the VGF, for the Gujarat, and the VGF is also being made available for the Tamil Nadu, 500 megawatts for each of these sites. In addition, there will be complete waiver of transmission charges for the offshore wind, and government is also contemplating to probably introduce the offshore wind energy purchase obligation. So to make it attractive, this is under discussion stage. probably that is going to be another dimension that will probably make it attractive. So these are some of the areas. Then nevertheless the challenge remains to attract the supply chain to India, to skill the people and to start the process.
Lovely, thank you. I'll open it up to the audience as well. Maybe we can take one or at most two questions. If there's any burning desires to be heard, we've got extra mics as well, so mics to...
CNI sort of offtakes is going to be a key priority that most of the funds will look to invest in projects in India. If we can just come together and solve some of the issues on the delays that we're seeing in signing of the contracts, in building out the transmission and the evacuation infrastructure that we need to sort of reach our 500 gigawatt of ambitious target. I think that is a big piece of the puzzle that needs to be solved very soon. And while in theory, wind is easier to build, but our experience, and I would probably agree with my colleague here, our experience is that it's very, very difficult to microsite the perfect sites in a vast land area with AI restrictions, with other sites nearby, calculating for all the wake effects and all, just to get that right wind site. It in India is getting difficult. The sites are few, and that will be a challenge, and that's why we might see more solar getting added annually then. But yeah.
That me? Oh. Here my mission is to attract investment in offshore wind in India. So repeatedly I again come to the same point. Please come to India, invest in offshore wind. Let us start the process and roll out the realize the complete potential of 75 gigawatts.
Thank you.
Because otherwise we are good with onshore wind by on our own, and solar, yes, it is proven. So we need your intervention in offshore wind.
Thank you. Dharmendra, quick and succinct.
So my concluding remarks, like government in terms of the RE support, the integration of wind in RE and to achieve the 500 gigawatt, the things are changing in a very drastic manner. Government is and the regulatory commissions, everyone is in the same directions. So we are very hopeful that the target of the 500 gigawatt is achievable, and even more than that, India is in a position to achieve it. And that's all.
Thank you.
Sure. So we often feel and say that India is an under construction country. And that's true for our energy needs also. If we look at where we are close to 450, and in the next 6 years we are going to be reaching close to 800. So almost half, we are just half of them we are going to be in the next 6 years. So half of that infra is still to be built. And we see these developments in person. So April 23, which is 2 years before this, we started working in Khavda. Now it already has 5,000 megawatt of installed capacity, and it's going to be having 30,000 megawatt of installed capacity in another 5 years. So this is how rapid the pace of growth has been, and this is the scale of opportunity that's there. And this has been suitably backed by the government of India through incentives like production linked incentives, through capital subsidies, through exemptions in form of tax exemptions, and in form of concessional customs duty or import duty at places, and then lastly through obligations like purchase obligations. So the intent is that there has to be all of this infrastructure coming in, and why that has to happen is because we often look at it from the lens of our energy need, that we have to meet this energy requirement. India is looking at it differently, not just looking at it as a means to serve our energy needs, but also as an engine for the economy. So if this manufacturing capacity comes up, you have more jobs that get created, you have industry that gets mobilized, and that helps a lot of other sectors also in being competitive. You generate green hydrogen, that helps agriculture, that helps a lot of other sectors. So renewable energy is something that is going to be touching a lot of these allied sectors and would finally be powering the entire economy.
Thank you Vaibhav. I think that sums it up brilliantly. Thank you to all of my panelists. You've been excellent, and you've just made my job easier. And with that, let me now invite Anish to come in and deliver the closing remarks. A round of applause for all of our panelists.
represent the state of Tamil Nadu, which is the second largest economy in the country. So we are also the pioneer when it comes to renewable energy integration. We have a long journey, and the journey we started with Denmark. So we are proud about this partnership that Tamil Nadu has had over the last 4-5 decades. In fact, it is the partnership that has helped us make Tamil Nadu pioneers in the whole country. In 1986, we had the partnership with Denmark, the Ministry of Power, Government of India, and the Tamil Nadu Energy Development Agency, which started with 55 kilowatt machines. Now we are ramping up to 5.2 megawatt machines. So this has been a journey that we have had together. So it is only a proud privilege that I get to address on this journey where we are taking the next shift towards one repowering of the old machines. That is one challenge that we are trying to address today, and also offshore wind, which we are all discussing, and we have been doing it over the last few days. To put things in perspective, the kind of challenge which we have ahead of us to address, today we have a portfolio of solar, wind, both onshore, bioenergy, hydro, all put together. Our size is around 23 gigawatt, which is serving the state of Tamil Nadu. To meet our obligations, to meet our commitments to source 50% of our energy from renewable energy sources, we have to invest in another 25 gigawatt. Today we stand at 23 gigawatt over the last 40 years. So in the next 5 years, I have to add 25 gigawatt. So that is the kind of magnitude that we are looking at today, and it comes with a lot of challenges. We all know the challenges when it comes to adding more RE into the grid, the kind of intermittency, kind of transmission constraints that we have. But we are looking at solutions, and we have found a few solutions which will help us integrate more RE into the grid. So when it comes to solar, it was discussed how solar versus wind, etc. But solar as a source of energy has found a good cousin in battery energy storage systems, which is helping to make it more firm and dispatchable, which is the way ahead. But when it comes to wind, there are certain challenges I think the industry also needs to be cognizant of and should be willing to address. The wind main challenge when it comes to onshore wind, it is especially in Tamil Nadu, wherein we say that we have a 35% CUF. Even then, the significant challenge we are left with is that it is seasonal. The wind is available only from May to September, and beyond September, it drops down to almost 10 to 15% of the original installed capacity. So this is a major challenge we are left with, because there are no contracts. Of course, we try swapping energy with some other complementary states, but that is also to a limited extent only we are able to do that. So what we are left with is excess energy during this wind season, which leads to a lot of curtailment happening. So solar, the issue is a little different because it is more diurnal, and that has been solved with the help of, to a certain extent, of course challenges still remain, with the help of battery energy storage systems, and we have some hope in the horizon that this will be addressed to a larger extent in the future. But when it comes to wind, we have to be cognizant of this externality that wind brings, and try to bring in solutions through seasonal storage systems. We are talking about a lot of things like hydrogen, whether it can be a source of storage, compressed air, so many molten salt, all these are being talked about, but the wind industry also will have to lead this to ensure that wind becomes a major source or the go-to source for our requirements as somebody who is distributing the power to consumers. As the distribution company, my single or most important objective is to give the best possible power at the cheapest cost available. So when you do a resource adequacy study, we do an economic resource adequacy study wherein the cheapest source of renewable power should be given to the people. So wind has a lot of work to do in this front to ensure that it becomes more consistent and more reliable, dispatchable over the entire year. So this is one challenge which we have, but there is no doubting the fact that wind is an important factor in our portfolio of renewable power. But going ahead, even when we add offshore wind also, even offshore wind comes with this challenge, but to a limited extent, not as bad as it is with the onshore wind. But still this challenge which we see in onshore wind, we will have in offshore wind also. And this seasonal variability is something that the industry, everybody has to come together to address. If we can address that, there is nothing like that. That will give us a lot of hope for achieving our ambitions beyond 50% to 100%. So I will also briefly touch upon what we think about offshore wind. Because as a state, we see offshore wind as a very, very critical part of our portfolio going ahead into the future. Today, we are not having any offshore wind, but maybe 5-6 years down the line, we will start seeing it. And going ahead from then onwards, it could become one of the most important sources of energy for a state like Tamil Nadu, which has very, very good source in its own neighborhood. But for offshore wind also to become a successful source of energy for us, there are two things I believe, or the state believes, that needs to be addressed. First thing, it has to become cost competitive. It has to become a power source which is comparable to other sources of renewable energy. So today, even with the kind of policy support that is being extended by the state and central governments, it has not reached that price point. So what has to be done towards making it more cost competitive? It was discussed how to localize supply chains, how to ensure that skill development happens and people are employed gainfully in offshore wind so that the economy also benefits. At the same time, the cost of offshore wind also comes down. This is one area where we will have to consciously work on and understand that unless and until the price comes down, unless and until convergence happens on this price point, taking it to scale becomes difficult. Sometimes it becomes a chicken and egg scenario. But that is why the policy is now supporting with VGF, with the kind of tariff support that is there, etc. But we definitely have to find ways to reduce the cost of offshore wind going ahead. That is one area where we have our focus on. Another is, of course, taking the community on board, especially with the kind of environment that we have in that neighborhood, which is a biosphere reserve. So we are very cognizant of the environmental and social consequences. The community, the fishermen community, that has to be taken on board. This is another area where we will definitely love to learn from the experience that has been there in countries around the North Sea, especially Denmark. We had gainful conversations with the fishermen community here as well. And we are willing to take this conversation ahead and ensure that learning from whatever has happened in these geographies, we will be able to better initiate dialogue with our own community people and ensure that this coexistence, as it is being talked about, is done in a more participatory manner so that everybody can coexist and gain and be better off because of offshore wind coming in. So these are certain things which I thought should be deliberated and talked about more, and I'm sure that this participation and this such engagements which we are having with the Denmark Energy Agency, which is what has helped us gainfully become the leader when it comes to onshore wind. We will take this partnership forward and ensure that we also become the leaders when it comes to offshore wind as well. So thank you for this opportunity. Thanks again. Thank you.
10 minutes up or beyond the time that we were supposed to be here. So thank you for staying on so patiently. Thank you to all of my panelists. Thank you to Your Excellency for being here and for gracing this occasion with your presence. And lastly, a big thanks to the Global Wind Energy Council as well, the GREC. Is there anyone from GREC over here still? Oh, okay. Well, so thanks to everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all soon in various guises and at various events. Maybe the same event next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers.